and welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Patrick Dewar. We have a really exceptional show today in that it's a new beginning for us. It's 2013, the beginning of 2013, and we thought we'd add some extreme value. The show has gone to a weekly format. Each week it'll show up about the same time, and then it'll also show up on other forms of media, YouTube and almost every other video channel that you could imagine that's out there. And we're going to be bringing on guests that will always add value to you as the viewer. I imagine that most of the people that will be attracted to this show will be business owners or mid-level managers or somebody that would have a decision-making capacity within their company, because they're going to be information brought that will help them. And the guests each week will be special individuals that have something to bring to you, the audience, that's either a skill, a service, something of that nature that they're doing what I'll call best practices, something in the nature of maybe it's an author or speaker, or it's a business owner, a founder, chairman of some corporation that we bring on here to let them tell their story. And then let them also gain some information, some good information, some instruction from some of the other specialists that I'll call on the show to be an aid, to be a help. You're going to really enjoy today because we're going to talk to one of the co-creators of the new version of the Business Spotlight. And my first guest, if I can call him that, is actually one of the executive producers of the show. Luis Estrada has been in the movie industry, in the media, for like 30 years. He's done everything from, as he likes to say, from Top Gun to Naked Gun and everything in between. But even beyond that, he's also worked as a producer, a writer. He's created his own films. He has I know just recently finished a TV show or movie that he created both in English and Spanish simultaneously. I was really excited to hear that. Unique, special talent. And I know that he's also worked for companies that, well, some of you might recognize as, Ted Turner's company, and he opened and ran so much of Latin America for the TNT network, and then there's several other companies, and I'll let him begin to illustrate those and talk about those. So first off, Luis, thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, you have been in this industry forever, and
sorry.
Okay, you're a really old man.
Time, yeah.
No,
sorry, let me take my pills.
Yeah, but you have worked on so many different projects, but you've also worked with some of the biggest names in the industry. I think you said at one point you were third down from Ted Turner at some point. And so tell me a little bit about your path and,
Well, it's a little bit about the path. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, so if you're in this business, you're surrounded by it. Also, started off in the radio business, then got into a small production company. Have worked for faith-based programs as well for different channels, and then got lucky and was able to land a staff job at Paramount Pictures, and that's where the the Top Gun to Naked Gun comes in, everything in between. But back then we used to make about 12, 13 pictures a year, where now maybe one or two is what they make, because back then Paramount still made pictures that were maybe $6 or $7 million. Well, now you couldn't, you don't even start talking at that point. Of course, Paramount makes pictures that are $200 million now. That's the reduction in production. But then I went on to Hispanic business, which is the Telemundo station in Los Angeles. I did corporate videos for the gas company, just a variety of different things. Created a few pilots for television that fortunately didn't make it, but we did create them and pitched them. And then was lucky enough to go to the USIA, United States Information Agency, and work with them. And then the opportunity came up to open Latin America for Turner Broadcasting. So I was head of creative services for all of Latin America, 32 countries, in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And so we launched TNT, we branded them as well, and we branded Cartoon Network, launched Cartoon Network, and helped launch CNN in Espanol. And then off to Hollywood again. I went home and I worked with a company called Freeland Jacobs. I headed up their Latin America division. But Freeland Jacobs, we were the agency of record for CBS News. We worked for ABC. We worked for Fox, Universal, pretty much all the big guys. We did a lot of promotion for them. And then, then back to Univision, back to that area. Then here to Texas, which brought me to Hispanic Television Network, and then on to other things. I worked with a novella with Fremantle, and on and on. So, and you're right. During all this time, I was doing private projects, documentaries, motion pictures, corporate videos, anything you can think of.
That's how we basically connected. I mean, one of the things that was really neat is that when we first started talking about the Business Spotlight and taking it to another level, a guest on the show basically gets a marketing machine. We take the show, we market it out on 30 different video sites beyond the local DFW area, which is a wonderful area. So the thing that you want to do is realize that a guest to sit at the table here gives a tremendously powerful tool for you for years to come. Last I checked, we have over 40,000 video links, and when we come back, we're going to be talking further of ways that we can help you on the Business Spotlight. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Business Spotlight. I'm Patrick Dewar. Today we're doing a very special, different kind of show that you can call it a pilot, but the idea is that we're relaunching the Business Spotlight with additional resources, is what I would call them. I introduced you to Luis Estrada in the last segment of the show, and there are 4 different segments to this show. And what you'll see is that we're trying to bring more value for being a guest on the show. My guest in this segment, we're going to be talking with Mark Hardy. Mark is the CEO of Main Topic Media. He's been in the media industry for 25 years-ish and has worked on everything from having working for a major PR firm all the way to having his own. And really what's been exciting is to see him create on his 30minutepr.com site a training for PR that's the largest library of video on the internet today. So I'm really excited to have Mark Hardy on the show. Thanks.
I'm really glad to be here.
Well, we have done a show before.
We have.
So this is old hat for you. But the reason why I wanted Mark on the show is because as a PR specialist, every show will get a lot of press interest, a lot of, you're going to shine them, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I think people are a little bit surprised by about, they have their own idea on what PR is. And yet today, I like to use the term digital PR. And there's so many ways to get your message out outside of what you traditionally think of.
Right. Well, I know that one of the things that one of the things that I noticed a couple of years ago, and this is why we do so much more with the show today, is because I noticed that our children and really this generation is watching its TV on the internet. So the TV over the airways is great, but why not make it permanent? Let their 15 minutes of fame stay. With the press release and the promotions that you use, what happens with a show now?
Well, say we're doing a press release for this particular show. We can embed an excerpt of the video actually into the press release. And I've got a chart, a graph that shows that I think people think of press releases as, this, text. And what that chart shows is that you add multimedia elements. So you add an image, you add video, you add downloadable files, you add social media integration. Now you're going from a press release being viewed, a certain number of times to 10 times the number of views.
10 times. So we've got the view, the thing going right now. What do you call that? Picture of what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what basically that is. That is a growth pattern of, and it might be a little bit hard to see. At the bottom is a text-only press release. And what it's showing is you add other visual elements, whether it's an image, an attachment, a document. You can attach files to press releases now. A video, we mentioned you can embed a video, that a number of views increases. So what does that mean? It means you're reaching a greater audience. And the more people that see your release, obviously the more likely they are to act on that message.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know that when we talk about this next year, 2013, all of us brought some predictions on what we figured would be integrated into this year. You had some really excellent ones on the ways that PR was going to help. We've got about 3 minutes, so tell us your predictions.
Okay, well, we've already talked about prediction one. Prediction one is visual PR. Think about PR visually. And there's an important reason for that is because we're overwhelmed by information, and people, I think the majority, I think it's like maybe 60% of people prefer to process information visually. It's a reason that they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So wherever you can, add that visual element to a press release. And so that's going to continue to increase. That's prediction number one. Prediction number two, have you ever heard of the term newsjacking?
I have, but I don't know if our audience has. So what's newsjacking?
Okay, a newsjack or newsjacking is where you insert your message or your story into something that is trending, a current event. Can I give you a quick example?
Please.
I don't know, it was maybe a couple years ago, there was a story, it had captivated the media for days and days and days on end about miners trapped.
Oh yeah.
And it had a happy ending. They were rescued. Well, Oakley, a sunglass manufacturer, provided sunglasses for all the miners. Now, it's a happy ending and then a happy ending to the happy ending. So it was just a nice way to, they came off as a good corporate citizen. And that's an example of a good newsjacking. But it is kind of a high-risk, high-reward strategy. You don't want to insert something that's going to backfire.
Yeah, I know that as we go into the next segments and as we go into the next few versions of or shows, you're going to learn more about what I'll call Mark's thunders and blunders in regard to the client. When we look at the Business Spotlight, it's here to help you grow your business. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Patrick Dewar. Again, we're doing a rather different show today with my new talent that are going to be helping the business owners that are on the Business Spotlight to grow their business. I want to say exponentially, but let's just say like rocket style. Because the idea is that we want any guest to be on the show to have a very quick response of growth in their business, and then we want to continue to, well, what I'll say, help them get their door swinging and phone ringing. Yeah. So this part of the show is we're going to be talking about social media, and I know a lot of people look at social media and some people hate it and some people love it. It just depends on how involved you are in it. Some people look at it as a massive waste of time and space, but then when you recognize that there are 1 billion people on Facebook alone, you have to acknowledge that there's an audience that's hungry for it. Some of the predictions that I see coming this year are things where the media and the social media are going to be connected at a greater level. I fully intend on taking this show on to social media live at some point as soon as it can be done. My guest today is a social media expert, Kathy Brandon, who has cracked the code for learning how to take social media and use it in such a way that it creates a real ROI for her clients. And that's been the secret ingredient that most people in marketing have not been able to figure out. Would you agree, Kathy?
Very much. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so glad to have you here. I want to get into some of the things that you've seen, some of the predictions that you have, and some of the ways that you are going to be a benefit to any guest that's on the show.
Awesome. Which would you like to start with first?
Let's start with your predictions.
Okay, and my predictions are a lot of fun. The first prediction I have for 2013 is your consumer is tired of you telling them what to do. We've educated our consumer. And so now our consumer understands that they're knowledgeable, they're
Right.
educated. They can go to the internet and they can find what they need. And so for them to come to your social media or be blithered by your Facebook posts telling them what to buy, when to buy, how to buy, that's old school. Stop it. Number 2 prediction. It's all about the visual story. Nobody wants to read. Even the people who want to read don't want to read. And so what you have to do in social media, and this goes into a lot of what Mark was saying, is not only do you have to blog, you have to write, but you also have to paint the picture better in visual representation. And so your videos can't be long, they can't, but they do need to be short. And your visual representation of what you're saying needs to be powerful, spot on. You have about 30 seconds to get someone's attention as you scroll down their page. The third prediction is you have to drink your own Kool-Aid. If you're out there telling people what to do in their business, if you're out there telling people how to do things, then you have to drink your own Kool-Aid. People are so smart now, and we've done the educating. So now we have to come out and we have to be authentic. As a business owner, you have to reveal where your shortcomings are. People want to hear the human side of success. And so my prediction about 13 is let your freak fly, be unique, and be authentic, because that's what is selling in 2013.
How will you help the clients that are on the show to, I don't want to say get their freak on, but
Yeah.
get their freak on?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time with the guest before we get on the show. And we're going to drill into them to find out exactly what their unique freak is. And so that's what we're really going to display with the show when they're on the show.
Right.
We're going to drill that out, and we're going to make sure that the audience can see that, just like you did with the Turner Network and all the success you've had. And then something else we're going to do is after the show is over, we are going to give our guests a social media blitz. And not just, oh, you need to buy from our people, but here's what makes this person out of the 100,000 that you could hire unique. And so we're going to make a call out to the people who truly demand that unique solution, as opposed to just throwing stuff out there and seeing if somebody buys.
That's really good. I know that when we look at the other aspects of taking a client and setting them into the mix, the thing that I've noticed is that if we don't integrate everything we do, everything the show says, with their own marketing, their own social media, their own website, blog, whatever we create, the content, then we're missing it. And we won't have, well, I think it will have a great impact because I've created like 40,000 video links. I know that it's out there, but I want more.
But it's important what that content is what
Exactly.
you're talking about. Because if you go away from their brand, if you go away from their message, then you're just going to confuse the consumer,
Exactly.
right? So now you got to follow that. That's why it's important that as the guests come on the show, that you talk to them, understand their message, and then make sure, like you said, which is perfect, to drill that out of them. Because then that'll reflect on video much better, and then make sure that they also understand their message too. Sometimes they're confused about their own business sometimes, but yeah, that's very, very important, the content.
I so agree. As we wrap up this show, and we've got one more segment, but we're going to wrap up with some predictions that Luis and I have as far as where the TV and media and video is going, and how this show can help you in the local area and even in the national area grow your business fast. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. I'm Patrick Dewar. We're finishing a special event today with the relaunch of the Business Spotlight in the DFW area. The show will air weekly. Every week we'll be bringing new guests to share ideas, tools, tips, best practices from authors, speakers, founders, CEO of companies in the DFW area especially, but I know that we'll have people flying in from around the country. And the one thing we want to do is create an even more, I don't want to say reactive, responsive?
Or interactive.
Interactive, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Luis Estrada is on this segment. And Luis, what are some of the predictions that you have for media? You have seen media go from, it expanded in its audience for up to 50 years, and then about 3 years ago it started to contract. What's happening?
Well, it's really not contracting. What's happening is it's getting diluted.
Yeah.
Because if you look back at the 1950s and you had, one or two channels or three channels, and most televisions weren't even on until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they started running cartoons. And as you go through the 70s and all that, a lot of people were loyal to certain networks.
Right.
So if you were an ABC guy, it's kind of like if you're a Chevy guy or a Ford guy, it was ABC, NBC, or CBS, and then usually had a couple of, depending on your market, a couple of independent stations, and if you were lucky, a Spanish station. So, but now what's happened is with cable came in. Well, cable, Ted's idea was it's like a magazine rack. Right? So now cable's going to give you just cars, it's going to give you just cartoons, it's going to give you that. Well, now, but you still had to go somewhere. You still had to go to that channel to get what you wanted.
You had to rent the attention.
Exactly.
And you got less commercials.
And you got less commercials back then.
Right.
So now what's happened is you're in fully control of your entertainment. I mean, that's evolved where people now aren't loyal to networks. They're loyal to shows.
Right.
That's why you see Law and Order all over the place, because people love Law and Order. And so now what's even happened is you don't have to switch around and we're going to go to USA Network or TNT or wherever to get Law and Order. Now, with Netflix and everything else, guess what? You have control when you watch it, how you watch it, stop, go.
You can watch as many as you want. You can watch them back to back. It's the podcast model, so to speak, where everything's on demand anyways.
Right, because what the consumer wants is full control of their time. Full control, and that's what we've gotten now.
Right.
We've gotten that. But
where do you see it going, though?
But see, now, well, the issue with marketers today, to get a little bit into what the show's about and getting people here, is that you have to cut through that clutter, and that clutter is even bigger now. Because whatever your product or service is, you got to have that media mix. I mean, you could still do traditional things depending on your budget. You can still do billboards and print and that kind of thing. But if you're not on social media, if you're not doing PR like Mark said, you're not going to reach the same because people aren't going to print as much. People aren't going to those places. You've got to find those people, and guess where they are? They're on the internet.
Well, the other thing about it, though, and this is something that Kathy said that I thought was excellent, is that real and authentic is becoming a big deal. Yes. People know that anybody can sit behind a mic and in front of a camera, and they're an actor. But if we bring real and authentic content that shines a light on exactly who the person is at their core and as the good person that they really are, now all of a sudden we've engaged somebody. But I know that part of my prediction is that it'll get even more engaging. Stuff like this will go on live on Facebook, live on Ustream or whatever. People will be able to give feedback and questions.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen it in some of the
Interactive.
sports things already, haven't you? Where
Yeah.
they're like watching their Twitter feed or whatever.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, they're watching the Twitter. It's a lot of the American Idol shows and all those kind of shows, those contest shows will do that, and that's just it. Again, you have to think about the consumer. And as we talk about people wanting to come on the show, that person has to be sincere. They need to be passionate about their project. Like she was saying, you need to drink your Kool-Aid. If
Right.
you're in that business and if you own your own business, you know you're doing it 20 hours a day. You gotta make sure that the person on the other side of the camera, that consumer, that client, that person gets that you're as passionate about what you're doing, and you're gonna do that for them.
If you were telling the audience who to be on the show, you've seen it develop. We have a synergy between the two of us, media, online. In a minute or so, what would you tell them?
What would I tell the audience? Well, I mean, really, it's open to everyone. I mean, you could have a retail, you could have a service, you could have a. The biggest key is that with this medium, what happens is you become the expert, and television video is very, very powerful. And if you are passionate about what you do, then what's going to happen is you're going to portray that to the audience. And if I'm in need of something, and say, even legal services or, no social media marketing, and I see somebody on the show, I'm going to go, wait a second, that guy's passionate, that guy knows what it, or him or her, and I want to work with them. I want them to help me because I have a need. And so I think that's what I would tell people that want to be on the show is that, like, if you want to tell your story and you want to get more clients, this is a very powerful way to do it. And it's not one dimensional, it's a mix.
That's really good. I know that as we go into this new format every week, bringing you more value, special guests that have a tool, a talent, a trade to offer into the marketplace as a whole. You can call me. My number's on the screen. Visit our website. The idea about media is this: it gives you the ability to tell your story and have the authority of someone that is an expert. Because let's face it, we all grew up on TV. You see somebody on TV that you're sitting there going, they must be the obvious expert. I'm Pat Dewar. I want to interview you if you're a leader and really have a story to tell. This is the Business Spotlight, where you get to tell your story and make a difference in your marketplace. We'll talk to you all next week. Thanks again.